Stuart Reed. I am an acoustic physics scientist. And an event occurred in 1996 which totally changed my life because, well, my daddy and I had traveled in Egypt many times. We were both fascinated by ancient Egyptian technologies, particularly. And this was the first opportunity that we actually had of being in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid all alone. It's extraordinarily resonant. And so one particular experiment that I wanted to conduct was a cymatics experiment. For those of you who are not familiar with cymatics, it's simply the study of visible sound. Whenever you have sound and you have a membrane, there has to be what's termed a cymatic pattern imprinted onto that membrane. And so basically, cymatic patterns are everywhere around us. Anyway, we set up this really novel experiment to make visible the resonances in that granite sarcophagus. I placed a small speaker there, and about 20 minutes into the experiment, suddenly on the surface of the membrane came what appeared to be an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph. Now this was an astonishing moment in my life. This hieroglyph was the Djed pillar. Symbolically, it's the backbone of the god Osiris. And this cymatic Djed pillar wasn't static. It was snaking, really dynamically on the surface of the membrane. And every time we changed the frequency, a new hieroglyph would appear in the sand. At the time when this was all happening, I couldn't really even think about how is this possible. But what happened, which proved to be a great gift actually, was that 3 weeks before going out to Egypt for this research mission, I quite badly injured my lower back and I was in excruciating pain. I had been to a physiotherapist a couple of times, but nothing had really touched this pain. Anyway, to cut a long story short, about 20 minutes into this experiment, I suddenly realized that there was no pain in my lower back. The pain had just completely vanished. So getting back to the UK, I immediately begun research into cymatics, the study of visible sound, but also I've been studying the biological mechanisms that underpin sound therapy and music medicine. How does sound trigger the body's healing response naturally and provide many benefits to health?
I'm Jonathan Goldman. I have been in the field of using sound for health and transformation for over 40 years. If you examine the different tenets of the different spiritual traditions on our planet, you find that they have a commonality, an understanding that life, the universe, and everything was created solely through the power of the Word. And the Lord said, "Let there be light." Sound creating light. In the beginning was the Word. In the Hindu tradition, they say Nara Brahman. The world is sound. All these different traditions talk about sound as being the original creative force on the planet. Now the question is, how does sound heal and transform?
One of the things that really surprised me when I started to do my research into sound is just how much sound healing was prevalent in all of the major cultures. And this to me was really stunning, because if we all knew this at one time, how is it possible that something so important was forgotten by almost the entire planet?
A lot of people now recognize that pyramids in general are thought of as resurrection machines. And so the healing aspects of sound for the ancient Egyptians, research shows very strongly that they had a significant acoustic knowledge. And it's sad in many ways, that it didn't go on to be shared with the rest of the world. But, here we are in a kind of new renaissance now.
My name is Dr. Shamini Jan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Consciousness and Healing Initiative. And as a PhD student and as a young investigator of biofield science, I was always drawn to the power of sound. One of the biggest challenges for me, both as a student and a researcher in the areas of mind-body healing, was a fundamental sort of arm's length pushback against the exploration of things like consciousness and energy. There is still an overabundance of what we call materialism in science. That is, going with the belief that we are only our physical bodies and that it's only physical medicine that matters. But in fact, the data does not support this. And even the rise of my field of research, psychoneuroimmunology, showed us that our minds, our emotions, our spirit have powerful effects on our health. And this is where we are with this field of biofield science. Now, the biofield is simply a term that we use in science to describe this energetic body that has been described by so many indigenous wisdom traditions across the world. And the physical body and the energetic body are not separate, they are actually connected. This is really the bridge for us to understand how consciousness itself can affect the healing process. And we study the biofield in many ways. One of the ways that we study it is through sound. These days, many of us are going to sound baths. We may go to gong immersions. We may go to Tibetan bowl healing. We may practice mantra. So how do we understand that scientifically? I believe that we need to look at the whole of biofield science to help us understand what the power is of sound for healing.
This whole division between science and spirituality is kind of unique to Western culture. But it's very simple. The energy in energy medicine is electricity. Our body has an electrical system that we aren't told about. It's sort of a situation of not seeing the forest for the trees, because most people understand that their brain waves are electric, that their heart is electrically driven, that their blood carries a charge. And what this all points to is the fact that we have electric current running through us. And anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And it's much more elegant and efficient to work at the level of the electrical system in the field than it is to try to do it in the body. The field is causative, and the body gets built on the blueprint of the field. So whatever is going on in the field is going to be going on in the body, especially as we get older. This idea that our biography becomes our biology because it's all written in our field and our field is informing our body. So I'm waiting for people to start waking up to the fact that, yeah, you have electric current in your body and you have a magnetic field around you. And that when we work in this magnetic field, that's when the magic can really happen.
Everything is in a state of vibration. Everything is in a state of motion. Everything is sound. This includes our body. Every organ, every bone, every tissue, every part of our body is in a state of motion, is in a state of vibration. And when we are in a state of health, we say we are in sound health.